everybody. Good evening and welcome to Wrestling with the Future. I'm your host, Psychic Medium Angelo, joined tonight by my co-host, Gary Arnold, better known as the lovable Livid the Clown, and marvelous Mike Messier, the movie maker extraordinaire. Mikey, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, and it's really a pleasure to have our guest on tonight.
Don't tip the hand. Don't tip the hand, brother. Don't tip the hand.
No tipping of the hand, but I'll let you introduce him. But I just so you know, I saw him wrestle live a couple of times in my youth, and it's just great to be here with you guys.
And Gary, how's life with Livid?
Life's going pretty good.
You know, you're a man of many words, Gary. I got to get you to loosen up, brother. Well, let me, before we do anything, let me just do some housekeeping here. The show just picked up another station. We are now at 557,000 downloads, and we're hitting about 75,000 people a week. So thank you very much, fans. We appreciate it.
Awesome.
Well, tonight we've got a very, very special guest, and we may actually have two guests before the night's over. But albeit one guest is sufficient and plenty for me, because this guest is absolutely amazing. His career began right after his career in football ended. And were it not for the lure of the ring, we might be calling the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez one of the greatest linemen of the 20th century. However, we're going to call him one of the greatest pro wrestlers that ever lived, the Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez. Manny, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for that intro. But greatest wrestler ever lived is the one that trained me with Terry Funk and Dick Murdoch.
Oh, man.
Yeah, my mentor. I don't think I'm the greatest ever lived. There's so many great wrestlers. I mean, I have the fortune to say that I wrestled the greatest wrestlers of our time.
Well, you certainly have, my friend, and you know we're gonna walk through the life of Manny Fernandez. Going to take you down memory lane a little bit, Gary. I mean, Manny. I'm looking at Gary here. Manny, you know, you and I spoke on the phone about a week or so ago. Talked a little bit about your love for football and how football led to wrestling. There's a lot of people don't know that story. Tell everybody who you went to school with and what's in the water there in West Texas, brother.
Well, I didn't know nothing about West Texas. The true story is when I came home from serving my country, I was struggling. And I had offers before I decided to enlist, drop my scholarships from many schools for not only football, but amateur wrestling. UCLA, all the Pac-10 schools, mainly for football and wrestling. And I went and enlisted and served my country. And one of the coaches that recruited me to UCLA for football ended up at West Texas State. I never even heard of the place. And my mom found out about it, and she got a hold of the coach and stuff, and he convinced me to walk on to West Texas State and use my GI Bill to get in. He said, and I told him, nah, I haven't played ball in years, man. I don't think I'm good enough to play anymore. He goes, oh, you're good enough. He convinced me to come back. I went to West Texas State and wasn't really happy with, being. I always played first string. I was junior college All-American, unanimous selection, offensive lineman, junior college wrestling. All-American. So, that led to West Texas State, and I got to West Texas State, and my craziness and not wanting to stick around and play third string, fourth string behind anybody, I just went off and started beating people up. I ran into people like Terry Funk, Dick Murdoch, Dory Funk. I didn't really know them, but I met them in a weird way of when we used to jog up to Buffalo Bowl. All the offensive linemen had to report and had to run up to Buffalo Bowl within a certain time. And Terry at that time had a ranch called the Double Cross, and he would ride his horse up and down yelling at us to move, the fat guys move. And I told everybody, who the F is this clown? And everybody got all mad. Goes, oh, he's a pro wrestler. He's a pro wrestler. Pro wrestling's fake. What the hell? So that's
That's
how I got
funny.
to know him. Yeah, that's how
Yeah.
I got to know him. That's basically, everybody said, "Oh, this kid's crazy. He's always fighting all the players and stuff." So
Well, you know,
that's
and you and I talked about this, and you know, your entry into pro wrestling almost didn't happen because you were so damn good at football. Was it an injury that sidelined you, or did you really have that bug inside you that wanted to try this wrestling thing?
No, it all came out. You know, back in the 70s, pro football players were huge. You know that. They were huge. You know, big monsters, 6'7", 6'8", 350 pounds, all that. They weren't like they are today, lean and mean and fast as hell, but they were huge. And, it just caught up to me. Burly, over 6 foot, 260 pounds. I took a pounding on the taxi squad there. And then finally, you get that slip in your locker, that yellow slip as you release. So, I got released, and I always knew that I had that. Murdoch and them wanted me to wrestle so bad, and I always knew that I had that to fall back on because I figured I had PTSD, so I wasn't going to get a 9-to-5 job. So, I was very fortunate that they still believed in me, and I was very fortunate that they, followed up with me and stayed in touch with me and got me to training.
Yeah, Manny, were you always athletic? Were you athletic growing up as a kid? Did you play sports?
Since I was 8 years old.
Wow.
I wrestled and played football and baseball, since I was 8 years old. I was good at all three sports. The greatest compliment I ever got is one day Dusty Rhodes was at a match in Richmond, Virginia, and somebody told him, "Man, that's a hell of a worker out there." He looked at the guy. The guy said he thought he pissed Dusty out, but Dusty turned around and told him, "That ain't no wrestler. That's a hell of an athlete."
That's right. There you go. Mike Messier, you got a question for the Raging Bull?
Well, Raging Bull, just kind of going down memory lane here on my second computer monitor, revisiting the time that the Raging Bull turned heel on Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy Valiant in Jim Crockett Promotions. And, for me, Raging Bull, those days, you really, as a fan, you really did believe, you really did believe in the magic because you had been such a good friend of Dusty Rhodes, Jimmy Valiant, Magnum TA, all the established good guys in Jim Crockett Promotions. And then that heel turn with Paul Jones offering you this briefcase full of money. And we've got Chaska Watley and Baron Von Raschke. Can you take us back to that night and maybe...
Yeah, when this was coming about, I always remember when I was young. When I was a green kid in this business, I had some of the greatest veterans that I worked that taught me so much, and they were such great heels, especially in Florida. They fed me. Eddie Graham fed me some of the greatest heels in the business. From them, I learned one thing. If you're going to be a heel, don't be afraid to heel. Do what you got to do to get over and get the people pissed off. And always live as a heel, not be afraid to get heat. Don't be afraid to get heat. Live for the heat. And, when I decided to do that, for the first time in my career, I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it all out. And then when we did it, everybody said it was so perfect because of the timing and the timing of taking the money in the briefcase and everything. But that night, was really the first time. I've heard of white heat. The old timers who talk about white heat, when you got white heat, you better look out, and all this stuff. I've heard of it, but I never knew, never realized it could really happen. But that night in Charlotte, at Charlotte Coliseum, it was Tommy Young who told me after that happened, I was kind of being cocky and stuff, trying to, put a little more heat on myself. Tommy goes, "Dude, you could hear a pin drop in here. You better get to the dressing room." And I did notice all of a sudden it was so silent. Then when they exploded, it was the first time I felt white heat. I thought they were going to kill me. I thought they were going to kill me. I literally had a woman, when I got out of the building after everybody left, I took my time getting out, come up and put a 32 Smith & Wesson to my head.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I mean.
But I tell you what, I've heard stories like this before where, people would come up with guns and knives and slash your tires and set your car on fire. That's heat, brother.
Yeah. Oh,
What
yeah.
what happened to that kind of heat, man? Where did the art of heat go?
I don't know. The guys are too much into, crowd, getting the crowd. They lose the heat when they go after the crowd instead of then the crowd come to them. I was always taught, just do your work in the ring, and if it's believable, they will come to you. They'll get mad at you. You don't have to beg for the heat. Hey, if you like that, see what I did. Hey, you look what I'm going to do. That kind of stuff. I can't stand that stuff. It's just, you watch guys that were great heels like Murdoch and Morocco and King Curtis and Harley Race, especially Harley Race. When they were here, and Terry Funk. I mean, you watch people like that. They weren't afraid of nothing. They just did their job, and they got so much heat, and you could sell so good for them to make the people believe that you're really being destroyed and really being hurt, which sometimes you were.
Yeah.
In the old days, they laid it in. In the old days, it was believable.
Yeah, Mikey's got a question for you, Manny. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah.
Manny, you mentioned Don Morocco as a great heel. That was one of my favorite heels as a kid. I mean, I at the time I hated him. I didn't realize how much I really loved the Rock, Don Morocco. But didn't you have a feud with him in Florida? Am I mistaken in that? Did you have a feud in like 1979 with Morocco?
It was fabulous angle, and we were married to each other for 6 months, and I learned so much from him. Slow down, kid. Take it easy. Not ready yet. Stay down. I love Don Morocco. One of the greatest workers. What's so great about Don Morocco? He had so much heat. Even if I beat him every night, he was still over, and his heat was still great. I would slip over by the skin of my teeth. He slipped on a banana peel, and I got him 1, 2, 3. But he had so much daggone heat that did not matter. It did not matter.
Incredible.
He knew how to keep his heat. Yeah. He knew how to keep his seat. That's why I admired him.
You told us about, Terry Funk training you. What was it like for you back in, I guess, around 78, 79 when Terry put you over for the Florida Heavyweight Championship? Walk me through that night.
Yeah, when I trained in Amarillo, when I was done playing ball at 78, I trained with all of them. Dory, Terry, Dickie, Mulligan, Dennis Stamp, Harley, Dust. I mean, I had a crew. And if I messed up, boy, trust me, I got punished. They all knew that I was a tough kid. I wasn't going to put up with shit, but to do what I had to do and to humble myself because I wanted to do it was the best thing I ever done in my life.
Yeah.
And then paid dividends right away because once I started learning, by the way, some of the guys today, the young guys, the younger in my generation, some of the young guys that always started, on the bottom, doing jobs and stuff like that, paying their dues, and for whatever reason, I did Broadways, 15-minute Broadways, 10-minute Broadways. If I wrestled a star like they did one more time, beating me on TV, they were testing me to see if I had an ego. That's why I tell people I never had an ego about wrestling. I always knew what it was. And I always know what it's going to be. So I never believe in all this crap about superstars and legends because I've always known what the business was about, is getting each other over.
Yeah.
So that happened to me at a very young stage of my career. 8 months into the business, Terry went to Eddie, and I didn't know this till later on, about 7 years ago, when me and Terry have a yearly sit down. We sit down, discuss everything going on in the business. During around Christmas or when I'm nearby. And he went to Eddie and told me, we got to put this belt on this kid. He's hot here. He's Latino. And, we got a lot of Latin people, Cubans coming over from the Mario, all that going on with Cuba and all the Latinos in Florida anyway. So it was kind of skeptical. And then, Terry did it in Orlando. And it just, boom, started. Boom, and then, it's funny. We discussed that this Christmas when I went to spend Christmas with Terry. We brought that up because if all my life I thank him for what he done, and I'll thank him till the day I die. Because
it's funny that as far as I know, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that might have been your first championship in wrestling.
Exactly. Yes, it was. And it was one of the greatest ever lived to me,
Yeah.
And like I said, we were talking about that at Christmas. and I keep thanking him every time I do. Thank you for what you did for me in my young career. But he always tells me, yeah, kid, but you had it and you ran with it. That's all that mattered. You ran with it and you kept running with it. And, you know, and that's why I'm so grateful, you know, to all the old timers.
Absolutely.
You know,
Well,
I
I'll
say
tell you
homage-
what, I'm going to see Terry on April the 11th at the Icons of Wrestling convention, and I'm gonna let him know that you and I spoke. He is a gentleman. He's certainly a character. You know, a great wrestler, and I think you would agree with this. A great wrestler really has to be two people. He's got to be his own true self, and then he's got to be the guy that everybody thinks he is.
Correct.
Did you ever have a problem with like separating Manny Fernandez from the Raging Bull?
No. The only problems I had separating Manny Fernandez from the Raging Bull was when somebody said it was fake. Then, you know, when confrontations in bars, people say the refs is fake, I said, well, fake this. You know, and then,
Yeah.
you know, so that's about the
We
only.
actually heard a lot of bar stories on this show.
You know, outside of that, you know, I've always known who Manny Fernandez is. You know, he's really Manuel Fernandez. And I always known what I was able to accomplish by being the Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez. And like I said, it wasn't me. It was the people they put in front of me that made me. I did what they told me to do, and they loved the way I did it. So I was very blessed with all the great guys. I mean, I had fabulous wrestlers that I wrestled my whole career.
Manny, where did the Raging Bull come from? Where'd that
Fighting.
name start?
Murdoch fighting in bars.
Oh, no
You
shit.
know, when I was at West Texas State, you know, I played ball, and we'd go after the games, and we'd home game. We'd meet Murdoch at the Whiskey River. Murdoch would be drinking, and we'd be having fun. And some old cowboy come over, start messing around, and talk about wrestling. And I wasn't a wrestler. I was a college football player at the time, but I'd get angry. You know, I get angry and just get in fights.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
so
amazing. Well, I have to tell you, one of the guys that I spoke to that put you over to the moon was Boogie Woogie, Jimmy Valiant. He said Manny was a guy that no matter what, anything you asked him to do, Manny would do it. Manny had no ego. Manny would do whatever you asked him to do. If you asked Manny to stand on his head in the corner and stay there, he'd do it for you.
Yeah. I've never had an ego about pro wrestling. I just did, and unfortunately, it got me to where I'm gone. But, you know, talking about funny story, I'll tell you a funny story about Harley Race. You know, we had in St. Pete, Florida, this is the world title. And he asked me if I could hang myself. I went, what? He goes, you think you can hang yourself, kid? I said, sir, I've never done anything like that. He goes, it's easy. I'm going to drop down. You put your head and shoulders between the second and top rope and the second rope and just kick your feet over real hard. I said, okay, sir, I guess I'll do it. And boom, and I did it. And that video, it's on video. And I hung myself. Oh, God, that was the worst feeling in the world. I was hanging there choking to death, and Harley just goes, Frenchie was the referee. Frenchie, I'm pretty sure you know Frenchie, took care of Andre, the referee.
Yeah.
And he looked at Frenchie, goes, that stupid kid did it.
Unbelievable.
I'll never forget that. Just those words.
We've heard a lot of stories on this show about a guy that is either a mad genius or an egotist or a guy who thought outside the box, depending on who you talk to. But there's one guy has all of these things associated with him. His name is Dusty Rhodes. Tell us about the Dusty Rhodes that you know.
You know, when I first met Dusty, they sent me to Florida. And I'll tell you a story. The first time I met him, but I went to report in from Texas because they told me as soon as you get to Florida, Tampa, Florida, you go to the office, you'll meet a guy named Charlie Lay. And I guess Charlie wrestled in the 30s and 40s. And he told me, and you go, how you doing? I introduced myself, how you doing? And I said, I'm Manny Fernandez, and blah, blah, blah. He says, well, you got your gear? I said, yeah, I was taught never to go nowhere without my gear. So I said, "Good, go in there and dress up, suit up." I'm going, "What the hell's going on here?" So I get dressed up and I went through the curtain. And for the first time ever, I didn't know who the guy was, but it was Gordon Soley. Gordon Soley said, "Hey, how you doing, kid? We've been expecting you." And I go, "Damn, what's going on here?" So I'm dressed, I'm suited up and stuff like that. And I go in there and there's a reading where they did TV taping. And next thing I know, Hiro Matsuda and Jackie Jerry Briscoe come out. They're all dressed up. He got in the ring with me and just went at it. We went at it for about an hour. And they tore me up. I was pretty good, but that wasn't that good yet. And that wasn't that good, but, they tore me up. And then here, all of a sudden, I see a door open and two men coming down the stairs that I knew Dusty from the West Texas, but I never saw Eddie Graham. That was the first time I laid eyes on him. He come down the stairs and Eddie Graham goes, "So what do you guys think?" Jackie Jerry Matsuda went, "Oh, the kid's pretty tough." I said, "Yeah, right. You just handed me my ass for an hour and that stuff." They go, "Well, you didn't quit." Yeah, that's the first time.
That's amazing. And Dusty was a guy that you tag teamed with. I think it was you and Dusty against maybe and Mikey. See if I'm right about this. It was Don Kernoodle and maybe Ivan Koloff.
That's exactly who it was. Yeah, they won the tag team titles.
Yeah, titles, Don Kernoodle. But Dusty, to tell you the truth, I had known Dusty and stuff, but after I got to Florida and things were going better, Dusty would come in his big Rolls Bentley to pick me up. I used to be embarrassed. I didn't want to go with him because he always wanted me to wear a cowboy hat. I told him, "No, man, can't wear no hat." He says, "You can now, kid." I said, "Okay, I guess I can." So I always had to wear a cowboy hat and drive in the Rolls Bentley, which I know anybody else would probably think, "Oh man, I'm driving the Rolls." But I was kind of embarrassed. But he was a character. Dusty lived his life.
And it's funny because we've had a lot of people on the show who knew Dusty. I mean, we just had Baby Doll for her second appearance on the show. Baby Doll's a good friend of mine, and she said that the Dusty that she knew was a gentleman, brilliant beyond his years, a guy who had such a big picture, as she called it, a big picture feel for wrestling. Dusty was the guy that put wrestling from the small television studio to the big arena. Would you agree with that?
Totally. Dusty, Dusty was my booker for 30 years. Everywhere Dusty went, he brought me in. He called me his pistol. That's my pistol. And, when people got out of line, I got physical. Don't hurt people. You stretch them a little bit. But, he was my booker, and I loved him to death. Dusty was an unbelievable genius. His imagination for wrestling was out of this world.
I heard.
His idea.
Yeah, we've heard that he was just, incredible. Like his mind never stopped.
No, because if you looked at his booking book, he could book 3 months ahead. All the angles were so far ahead. What we did was coming up 3 months down the road. Because I would always peek at his book. I had a love-hate relationship with Dusty because a lot of people wanted to kiss his ass. I wouldn't kiss his ass. I got in trouble. I used to get in Dusty's doghouse all the time. That's why I would wrestle such as this guy or drop me down the card. I didn't care. I was still getting paid one way or another. I still made the same money. So
the money's the same, right? Of course.
Yeah, anyway, I was in a contract, so it didn't matter. But I always I'd get pissed about Ric Flair kissing butt all the time with like Wahoo McDaniel said one time, "Jim Crockett, don't turn the corner too hard. You might break Ric Flair's nose." Just that kind of stuff. I could never go to that stuff. I wasn't an office boy. I didn't kiss his ass. I didn't. He wanted and expected of me. Every now and then I get pissed off and overdo it, and he get mad at me. They tell me, easy money, baby. You have to slow down, baby, and all that kind of good shit. But he was unbelievable when it came to booking wrestling. His imagination.
Manny, one of the things that Dusty is known for, even now, all these years later, he was always known for a guy who could take just a couple of bullet points and cut the most incredible off the top of his head promo that you ever heard. When you worked with him back in the day, did you see that kind of genius then?
Oh, hell yeah, because I copied it.
Oh.
People ask me to cut promos all the time because they say, well, you didn't take off Dusty. Well, hell yeah. They got him $1 million. Why would I not? I do it my own way.
Exactly.
I stole everything he did, but I do it my own way. You know,
oh,
it's like
sure.
People, you know, there's nothing original in pro wrestling. Forget about it. Don't think you're original. It's been done. It was done in the 40s and 50s. Argentina, Paulo Rocca was diving over the top. Somebody said, oh, wow, Manny Fernandez dove over the top rope in Richmond, Virginia on the Barbarian. It's just, I only copied a guy that wrestled 40 years ago, dude.
Oh, my God, original. Sure.
You know,
absolutely.
If you cannot take something from a guy that's a genius and he's teaching you this, then you're an idiot.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you got a guy like Dusty Rhodes, you'd be crazy not to steal something from him.
Oh, yeah. I did a lot of that. But, you know.
Manny, was Dusty open to people picking his brain for ideas? Did he want people to talk to him and ask him questions?
You know, I only drove with him a few times, and I would do that. You know, I would do that because, you know, when I first met him as a booker in Florida, I could see that he was so good at what he did. If you didn't ask, that's why I think later on in life I got the book Global Wrestling Federation, South Atlantic and North American, because I would sit down with him and watch him put these shows together, and I go, damn, that's amazing. Man, if this works, it's going to be unbelievable. And it did. His great dream was Great American Bash. The Great American Bash led up to Vince becoming WrestleMania. But his dream was first. Great American Bash created WrestleMania.
You know what? And we actually heard that story.
Yep.
So the story goes that at the time, first of all, let me get my timeline right. Manny, what at that time was Mr. Crockett Sr. still alive, or had he passed by then?
No, he had passed.
Okay, so it was Jim Crockett Jr. was running it, right?
Yeah. Yes,
okay, so Starrcade and Great American Bash, right? Those were Dusty's creations.
They sure were.
Okay, now how did they parlay that idea into a full-blown show? Who did Dusty have to convince to believe in him to pull something like that off? Because you're talking about something that was like way ahead of its time, brother.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was Jim Crockett's faith. Jim Crockett had a lot of faith in Dusty. You know, me and Crockett always, we were in and out. You know, he'd always get mad because if I did something Monday, they found out, call me Monday, Manny, you got another fight in such town in New York, Pennsylvania, whatever. We need to come in and talk about you calming down. You know, I could see the faith that Jim Crockett had in Dusty. Every time I'd have to go to the office because I'd come in and talk to the Dream. Then we'd BS and he'd tell me what's coming up, and Jim would come in. And he had so much faith in Dusty, he put his money on Dusty, and he ended up winning. You know, He ended up, creating Starrcade and Great American Bash, and that's how it became. Just Jim Crockett believing in this.
Mike Messier's got a couple questions for you. Go ahead, Mikey.
Well, first, I just want to say that hanging match that Manny described against Harley Race, for the fans that want to cross-reference, you can find it on YouTube. NWA World Heavyweight Title match, Harley Race versus Manny Fernandez, February 9th, 1980. And I watched that match as you were describing it, Manny. And, Manny's style of wrestling, to me, was a little bit ahead of its time because he would really hit the air, not the flip-flop stuff that we see today, but more of a reasonable attack with a lot of flying forearm smashes, back fists. I used to love watching Manny. He'd throw a guy against the ropes. When they would come back, Manny would hit him with an elbow to the midsection and then a back fist to the face or the chin. And it looked very believable, looked very like martial arts. Another thing I want to comment on.
Well, you know what, Mikey, not to interrupt you, but I got to tell you, I've always described Manny Fernandez's style as a no bullshit style.
Right.
And that's just, straight up as real as it gets. Because
Yeah.
Manny was, let's be honest about it, Manny, you were never a fancy guy.
No.
You just went in there and fought like your life depended on it and made it look believable. And that's something that nobody knows how to do now. They don't know how to make it look real.
Correct.
Believable. What, when you give credit to Terry Funk for your training, did he emphasize that believability in you?
Yes, but the one that I copied a lot from was Dickie Murdoch. He was so believable. His punches were unreal. I learned to punch like he punched. I could throw a punch right at your nose, and it looked like I broke your nose, but you don't feel nothing but the little breeze going by you. Same thing with my knee. Ray Stevens taught me that bombs away knee that I did on Ivan Koloff off the cage. I could drop that right on your face, and you wouldn't feel nothing. People trusted me because I was good at what I was taught to do. I mastered what the guys taught me to do. What they did, I worked so hard on. And so this flying around that's how I fought in the bar. You gave me a bunch of lip, I come running with a fly, bam, hit you with a flying elbow in the bar, and then I went after you. That's what I took from bar fighting into pro wrestling in the ring.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
I was just kind of reliving some of these great memories of Manny's career, and one of them that sticks out in my mind was, I believe it was December 6th, 1986. I was actually going to go to a pro hockey game with my dad in Virginia, the Washington Capitals, but I was sick, and I ended up staying home that night and watching Manny Fernandez and Ravishing Rick Rude win the NWA World Tag Team title in what seemed to be like an hour-long match against the Rock and Roll Express. And that was right after the heel turn that Manny, and Manny, to your credit, you kind of elevated Paul Jones's Army, because before then, Paul Jones's Army was kind of a cast of goofy characters like Baron Von Raschke and Congo the Barbarian, no offense to them. But when you and Rude became the centerpiece of the Paul Jones's Army, you took him as a manager to another level of seriousness. And the Rude and Bull tag team is still referenced by wrestling fans as one of those underappreciated, underrated championship combos. Could you speak about your tenure with Rick Rude and winning the belts and working with Paul Jones?
I was hoping somebody say that. Rick Rude was great. Rick Rude is one of the most fantastic guys I'd ever, I had tag teams with Magnum and Dusty and everything, but and Jimmy Valiant, but the greatest guy I tag team with was Rick Rude. Rick Rude understood his position when he put us together. He was one of the guys. Rick Rude was methodical, and he had the body, and he was the lady killer and all that. But the guy that was the worker on the team was me, and that's the way Dusty put it to us. And you let Rick Rude do his thing. You go in there, work your ass off, get everybody over. And that was my job. That's why I had fun wrestling Ricky Morton for the last 40 years. In fact, I got him this weekend. But, I've been wrestling Ricky Morton since 1980 over in Southwest Championship Wrestling for Joe Blanchard. And we've been together against it. So I made Rude understand it doesn't matter how big we are compared to them. We got to get them over. And,
isn't that amazing, though, Manny? Isn't that amazing that here 30 years later you're still working Ricky?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I love it. I still put him over. He's great.
I got to tell you, I have a Rock and Roll Express story to share with you. I brought Ricky and Robert into New Jersey to work for me for my promotion, and they stayed at my house for 3 days. And they didn't sleep, Manny. Honest to God, they did not sleep for 3 days. They lived on Dunkin' Donuts, cigarettes, and coffee. And I swear to you, brother, and when they hit the ring, they looked like they were rested and raring. I mean, they didn't skip a beat. They didn't miss a step.
Yeah,
they were amazing, those guys, and they still are. You watch them today. It's just I'm amazed that at 62 years old that Ricky can do the stuff that he does. I'm like, I'm 61 and I can barely get out of bed in the morning.
Well, that's old school. We used to do that. Sometimes we party and get drunk all the way to till the morning and jump on an airplane, go to the next town. You know that. And it's
Yeah.
the way our life was. But, with Ricky and them, with Rude and me, we had so much fun with them because our job was to get them over. Our job was to get the Warriors over. We had matches with the Warriors where we got beat up and we sold our butts. That was us. We had to sell our butt to get those guys over. We got ours in at the end. We stayed champ. Nobody beat us. Nobody ever beat us, to be Rude. He went his way, and I wouldn't work for Vince, so I went my way.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about that. Why didn't that Raging Bull Rick Rude combination get any more life out of it? God, you guys had you could have had another at least a couple of years with that.
Yeah, but Rude was getting tired of us being behind every. We outdrew everybody. There used to be once upon a time there was the A team and the B team. The A team was Dusty and Flair and everything. So the B team went out with Rock and Roll Express and Wild Machine and Rangers. And we had Boogie and Barbarian and Denny Brown, that crew, and that A team had the Horse Horsemen, Dusty Magnum. But we outdrew them. And Rude got tired of that kind of messing around. So he said, I'm going to WWF, talk to Vance. I said, well, good luck, kid. It's yours. Hey, you're in this to make a living, to support your family. You decide what you do. I'm behind you 100%. That's all I could tell him. He went over there and said, you coming? I said, no, I don't work for that dude. I can't work for that dude. So, things happen. But, we had a blast. I mean, like Mike asked, my time with Rude was fantastic because we knew what we had to do and we did it and got people. But we stayed over with all the people. There was places people liked us more than they liked rock and roll warriors. Philadelphia. We were over like $1 million, me and Rude.
Oh my God! Yeah, I'll vouch for that, brother.
Yeah, so
I'll vouch for that. You guys killed it at the Civic Center every month. Oh my God!
Yeah, but me and Rude, the greatest thing about Rude is one day, we had to go, and it was in Huntington, West Virginia, and we had to go an hour Broadway Rock and Roll Express, and I was out there with Ricky, bam, bam, bam. Me and Ricky about 20 minutes, and I tagged Rude. He comes in with Robert, and they go about 3-4 minutes. He tags me back in. I looked at him, so I get out there back with Ricky, and we're getting the heat and everything. And come back, I realized, wait a minute, I'm doing 40 minutes of this hour, and him and Robert are just coming in and out. Me and Ricky busting out. So I get back to the back after the match, and we're taking a shower, and I say, hey, dude, we're tag team. Remember, we're tag team. I put in a little more time to that. And he goes, wait a minute. Remember what Dusty said, you're the worker, I'm the gimmick here.
Well, we got a surprise. Manny, I got a surprise for you, brother.
Yeah.
I got a good friend of yours on the phone with me tonight.
I don't have any friends.
Yeah, mystery guest. Introduce yourself to Manny Fernandez.
Manny Fernandez, brother. Johnny Mantel, how are you, buddy?
See, now, that I have brothers. I don't have friends. I keep a small circle of brothers, and Johnny Mantel, tell you a story, he's one of them. I just tell you about Johnny Mantel, did such a great job for me at Global Wrestling Federation. To this day, I'll never forget him and Black Bart. Him and Black Bart put up with a lot of stuff that I threw at him at Global. They did a wonderful job as workers.
Well, Johnny, welcome to the show, everyone. This is Cowboy Johnny Mantel joining Manny Fernandez tonight. And so, Johnny, better late than never. I'm glad you're here. You still with me?
I'm here, man.
Well, tell me how life in Wichita Falls, Texas is, brother.
Doing good, man. The weather's trying to turn into spring already. People are out and about, and just getting ready for the big induction this year.
So, for everybody that doesn't know, Johnny is the curator of the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame located in Wichita Falls, Texas. That's his baby, and he treats it like his baby, and he should. He's got a lot invested there, my friend. Tell everybody what they can expect to see and do when they get to the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame in Wichita Falls.
Well, you can see all the history and see what this business has come from before the Civil War to today,
Yeah.
A lot of people call the real era of professional wrestling, which is really before what's going on today. The 60s, the 70s, the very early 80s. You talk about the heyday of professional wrestling. That was the heyday of professional wrestling, and Manny was a big part of that all over the country during that time.
Well, we're going to talk about your history with the Raging Bull. As far as I know, my history brings me back to Southwest Championship Wrestling. As that's when I could first put Cowboy, Johnny Mantel, and Manny Fernandez together. Now, am I right about that, or did you guys go back a little further than that?
I think Manny and I we actually met. I think he was going on a trip to Japan, and I met Manny out in California when I was training back in 76, 77. Was I think the first time I met Manny Fernandez.
Manny, is that about right, that time frame?
The 77, I think that would be right. Yeah, because I was back there from West Texas State. That would be right.
So, we don't know a lot about, up here in the Northeast, we don't know a lot about Southwest Championship Wrestling. We're familiar with World Class, of course, Fritz's group there in Dallas. But how would you best describe to me Southwest Championship Wrestling? What was the flavor? What was the feel?
One of the greatest territories ever. Joe Blanchard had a hell of a territory, and he was a great pay guy. And you might have heard of World Class because of Von Erichs, but Southwest Championship Wrestling was a lot better than that. And we had a bigger area, and we drew a ton of money. We had a great crew there, especially when Wahoo was the booker. We had a great crew there with Tully and Gino and myself and Chavo Guerrero, Tiger Conway Jr., and then the Sheep Herders came in, Al Perez. I mean, we had Killer Kim Brooks. I had
Bob
so much
Sweeten.
Bob Sweetan, we Tank Patton. I mean, we had a hell of a crew, and we had a hell of a run there. We, got paid every night in little towns, big towns. Joe Blanchard was fantastic to work for. He was fantastic.
Johnny, compared to other promoters in Texas, now I know people don't understand, but when we talk about the territories, wrestling territories, Texas alone had like 7 wrestling territories. Can you tell me how did they all get along? Did they work together? How did the promoters in Texas cross promote with each other? How did they work together?
Well, during the heyday of the promotions, there was 4 major promotions. Like Paul Bosch in Houston, Bill Blanchard in San Antonio, Fritz in Dallas, and the Funks in Amarillo. And those 4, they worked pretty well together. They switched talent in and out, traded talent back and forth, and they all knew where their areas were, and they didn't step on each other's toes. And they, I think, for the most part, they worked pretty well together during that time.
Johnny was
all NWA promotions.
Oh, and yeah, that we should also point that they were all National Wrestling Alliance. Johnny, was Gory Guerrero part of that loop down there?
Yeah, he owned El Paso.
Well, I'm sure Manny would know better than I do, but Gory was the promoter out of El Paso, and he worked with Dory and Dory, or he worked with Dory Senior and the Funks, and he also worked a little bit with Joe Blanchard and last year Gory Guerrero got inducted into the Hall of Fame, and Linda and Mondo were here to induct him, and as I tell everybody, such a well-deserved induction for a guy that wrestled and promoted and did stuff that people didn't think could be done, and he did it anyway. And
Yeah.
I had the real privilege of getting to work out with him and getting him to tell me right from wrong when I started in the business in California with all the Guerrero boys, and Gory was a hell of a guy, man.
Oh, Johnny, I never knew that. I never knew you trained with the Guerreros.
Yes, when when I broke in Southern California, it was Chavo, Mondo, Hector, Roddy Piper, my brother Kenny, Butcher Vachon, Neil Gay as the hangman.
Oh, wow.
Pedro Morales, Victor Rivera.
Oh, my God.
Hey, Johnny, Gory Guerrero was Gory Guerrero. Tell your Gory Guerrero story. He was Dory Funk Sr.'s right-hand man in El Paso and Mexico because he could talk to Al Santo and Mil Máscaras and stuff. And Gory had a lot of influence. You know, he had a lot of influence that helped out the whole Texas territory with all the promoters there. But you didn't know this story. Did you know that Chavo Guerrero Sr. was my high school wrestling coach that I won a national title for?
No kidding.
He actually coached me at Jefferson High School in El Paso.
Oh, no shit.
No shit.
Damn.
Yep. So I grew
Wow.
up with the Guerrero.
So, Gary, you got a question?
Yeah, you know, I watched wrestling from the '80s on up from when I was born. I was a real big fan of yours, especially when you did go heel with Paul Jones. What was like traveling with Paul?
You really want to know the stories about Paul Jones, huh?
Yeah. Oh, brother, we love the road stories. Yes.
Well, we didn't like Paul Jones. Rude couldn't stand him, man. He could not stand him, man. There were so many times that I had to calm Rude down because Rude, he'd go out there and hog up all the 1 minute promo. He'd get out there and start talking, and Rude would get so angry about that because he'd go, dude, why can't he be like Paul Ehrling, stand behind the Warriors, and then us talking, and he just goes to the end. He always wanted to hog the microphone first and get himself over, and blah, 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 and that would just piss off Rude. And then, of course, I was trouble all the time, and everybody knows that. I'd get in fights, and blah, blah, blah. And he was the guy that would call Crockett and tell Crockett that I did this, that I did that. So he was basically a stooge. So we didn't really care for the guy. You know, we traveled. We didn't travel around Paul Jones. We stayed as far away from him as we could. You know, there was incidents where I took a crap in his hat and all that good stuff that got me in trouble. But, you know, that's me. I didn't
Manny,
really care.
is part of that Manny? No, I was just going to say, I'm sorry, Johnny. I was just going to ask Manny, is part of that because he was a worker and not strictly a manager? Did he had that like need to be up front?
Yeah, I think it was. But he's been for the Crockett for a long time. He started as a cameraman and then became a wrestler. But, you know, he's been with the Crockett promotion forever. And I guess the manager, not wrestling, was a step down for him. But, you know, it was horrible for us, you know.
Go ahead, Johnny.
Well, I just, why did Manny Fernandez and Rick Rude need a manager? They were both skilled professionals on a microphone.
That's a real good question. That's a damn good question.
Well, that's what we asked too. I asked Dusty the same thing, and what he told me one day, well, he needs to do something. Crockett wants him to be involved somehow, so he ends up with us.
I mean, of all the people to put him with, though, the two guys that didn't need a mouthpiece for sure, you know,
No.
and Johnny and Manny, you both of you guys knew Rick Rude. You knew him. He was a soft-spoken guy. He was a real nice guy, but I heard that legit, if you pissed him off, he was, bar none, the baddest ass you ever want to mess with. Any
Yes,
truth
sir.
to this?
Yes, there is. I've seen it personally. And then he used to get. What I loved about Rick Rude is when you did piss him off, because normally Rude, he was a pot smoker. I used to call him China. Hey, dude, you got Chinese eyes again. And he's smoking so back after he's all done. He'd just chill out, mellow out, and everything. Me, I was a partier drinker, you know, crazy. Charlie Mantel will tell you that. And I'd get in fights. And one time, when I got in that fight in the dressing room with Tully Blanchard, you know, I just blew it off from what happened years ago about the stabbing and stuff. Had to crack the cup on the nuts, and went after Blanchard, started beating the hell out of him. All I remember is when Barbarian pulled me off of Tully, going, "No, brother, you're trying to kill him." I go, "Yeah, that's right. I'm trying to kill him." You know, Lex Luger ran into the room like to do something, and Rude stood up and go, "Where the hell you think you're going?" And Lex took off running out the damn door. You know?
Yeah, I don't think Lex Luger is going to do too much.
No.
That must,
So,
he wouldn't.
Mike Messier,
that
our
must have been
resident filmmaker, Mike Messier. You got a question for Cowboy Johnny Mantel?
well, Cowboy Johnny. Real quick, I think that was the Crockett Cup in Baltimore, Raging Bull, which I actually attended as a youth, and
Yeah.
what a great tournament that was. But Johnny Mantel, we're talking about Southwest Championship Wrestling, which was actually the predecessor to all of wrestling on cable TV, because as far as I understand, Southwest was the first promotion on the USA Network.
It was.
With Bruiser Bob Sweeten, Manny Fernandez, yourself, Johnny Mantel, Tully Blanchard. I think Ken Lucas might have been there. I could be wrong, but I mean,
Can't look for Ricky Morton, the original rock and roll Smith. You're correct.
right. And it's just so interesting that for all the folklore about pro wrestling, you're right that Southwest Championship Wrestling, which I remember being on the USA Network in the pebbles of my memory, it was really a great promotion, like a UWF, like kind of 3 or 4 years ahead of its time, a hard-hitting promotion, not over the top like ECW, but a hard-hitting old school wrestling promotion, and it was really a great promotion. Can you tell us about when that first got to the USA Network? What was the buzz or what was the atmosphere for the guys in the dressing room?
Well, for me, it was, of course, the fact that Wahoo McDaniel did the booking down there, and he took control of it and made it believable wrestling, and he expected the guys that he brought in to wrestle believable and because again, in Texas, if you went out there and you acted like you were scared to wrestle and you acted afraid and you did a lot of things that weren't hard-hitting wrestling, fans in Texas were going to boo and run you out of the building.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
They want to see two men get in the ring and have a fight, and that's what Joe Blanchard and Wahoo did. That's what Gary Hart and Fritz, or Fritz and my brother Kenny did. They brought hard-hitting, hard-fighting action to the ring, and the fans got used to it. And I think that's something that brought Texas wrestling. Manual Funks and Amarillo, or what Gary and Fritz, or my brother Kenny and Fritz did in Dallas, or Joe Blanchard in San Antonio. They brought hard-hitting, believable wrestling to the ring, and if the marquee out front said wrestling on it, they performed wrestling moves in the building, and those moves were the painting on the canvas to tell them the stories that they stole, and they were great storytellers at that time.
Amen to that.
I'll tell you one that Manny left off earlier, and they drew a lot of money down there, and that was Eddie Mansfield and Scott Casey. They drew a lot of money down in San Antonio.
Yeah, there's a name you don't hear much anymore. Yeah, Johnny, there's a name you don't hear much anymore, Eddie Mansfield.
Hey, I'll tell you Eddie Mansfield's story. Him and Scott Casey, that's right. Johnny Mantel's telling a true story. Him and Scott Casey had one of the hottest angles going at Southwest Championship Wrestling. And it came down to a hair versus hair match in San Antonio at the Hemisphere Arena. And once we got on USA Network, we were selling out everywhere. That network put us over so big, and they believe in believable wrestling, something that you don't see today. Like Johnny was saying, everything was hard-hitting action. But they had the big hair versus hair match in San Antonio. Eddie Mansfield had that long, beautiful blonde hair and everything. So Scott was going over, and then Scott was going over that night. When they were ready to cut his hair, Eddie Mansfield had second thoughts. He took off running out of the ring. And we said, me, Tiger Conway Jr., and Chavo Guerrero Sr. said, oh, hell no, he'll kill us down. So we dragged his ass back all the way to the middle of that ring, and we told Scott to shave his damn head as hard as he could. He wanted to run out the building. Then he got all mad at us, and he didn't want to talk to us no more. And then it went down the road. He exposed the business a little bit. I'm pretty sure you know about that. That's where he got it.
Yeah.
Kind of disappeared,
Yeah.
But, yeah, he tried to run out on that. It didn't work, though. It didn't work.
Incredible. Well, I tell everybody that for the record, and everybody who listens to the show knows that Cowboy Scott Casey is a good friend of this show. He's been here probably 3 or 4 times already. Hell of a storyteller. He's got a great book if you're interested in it called One Last Ride. It's a hell of a book. Now, Johnny, let's talk about a last ride here. This is a lasting ride, I should say. The Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Now, I got to ask you, Cowboy, is Manny Fernandez represented in the Hall of Fame?
I have 2 or 3 pictures of Manny up, one in our military room and one in the very front room. Manny Fernandez, the bull up on the wall at the Hall of Fame. He's been a long-time dear friend of mine, and I made sure that there was pictures of his up showing, telling his story, because I think that Manny is one of those guys in the business. Just like the time they gave him Paul Jones as a manager, they sort of held those guys back. They didn't really turn them loose and let them draw like they could have drove. Manny drew every place he went and protected this business with his whole heart and his entire body. And I think that's the true sign of a Hall of Famer. So I try to tell Manny Fernandez's story every time someone comes in the hall and asks about him.
That's remarkable. Manny, how does it make you feel hearing those words?
From Johnny, it's freaking fantastic. Because I love and respect Johnny because of what he did. Like I said, how he helped me at Global Wrestling Federation. Him and Black Bart did a lot for me. They put up a lot with a young JBL and Bobby Duncan Jr. And they put up with a lot of stiff guys because they knew that they were there to help the young kids get over. And they had no questions, no ego. They did a great job. And I just want to tell Johnny, I'll probably be seeing you a lot more because I'm moving back to Texas. I'll be moving right outside of Dallas, brother.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yep, They got a school going up in Willis Point, Texas. It's called the Bull of Hard Knocks Wrestling School for Global States Wrestling Alliance.
And when were you going to spring this news on me there, Bull?
Oh, I was kind of keeping it down. Golf States Wrestling Alliance is a little organization I built with a kid that I trained many years ago, Mike Gunner. And we're starting wrestling in the east of Texas. Hey, we got 4 promotions going
right.
East Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and a little bit of Georgia and the Panhandle of Florida.
Would it surprise you if I told you I know who Mike Gunner is?
Oh, yeah, it would, because I didn't know that he got out there. I know he's a great kid.
I know who he is, yeah. Hell of a nice kid. Got a lot of potential. Great worker.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you what, the sky's the limit for Mike Gunner, brother. I'm going to tell you that for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's a great kid. He's spent a lot of years training with me in R-Truth, Homicide, Logan. Well, I could go on and on about the guys I trained, but, they got their own stories, and they made it big in their time. And
absolutely.
We took a young JBL, and look what JBL became. Bobby Duncan Jr. would have survived. He would have probably one of the greatest ever.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. But
and that's a shame too, Manny, because the name Bobby Duncan Jr. is oftentimes lost in wrestling history. But I remember, up here in the Northeast, seeing classic matches with Bobby Duncan Jr. And our champion up here, Bruno.
Right.
And oh my God.
But he had a son too. Bobby Duncombe had a son that wrestled in ECW and WCW in 97 and 98. I think that's who Manny trained. Do you mean the son that came through in the late 90s, Manny?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Indeed.
That was the guy that you saw, Angelo, wrestle Bruno. He had a son who wrestled in ECW for a brief time in 97 and went to
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he went to WCW and was part of the West Texas Rednecks with Kurt Hennig and the Wyndhams, Barry Windham and Kendall Wyndham.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
He passed away, unfortunately.
Bobby Duncan Sr. is the one you're talking about, Russ. Bobby Duncan Sr. I have a great story about Bobby Duncan Sr. Southwest Championship Wrestling. We were driving
lay it
down
on
to
me.
We were driving down to Laredo, Texas. They had that big Lincoln Continental. He had just come back from finishing up New York and stuff. And he was wrestling as a mummy. He would wrap him up and everything. And every now and then I put a rib on him and put so much powder on the mummy tape, right? And the guys would chop him, and it looked like a bomb going off in the ring. It'd be a cloud of white, right? So Bobby said, "Brother, you put too much." I said, "Oh, okay, I won't do it again." But I did it a couple of times though. So one time we were going to Laredo, and I kept watching him dip, and I never dipped before. I knew that Murdoch chewed tobacco, but I never really seen anybody dip skull and spit in the bottle and shit like that, right? So I kept asking, why do you do that? He says, "Come here." And he reaches in that damn skull king, and he sticks a whole gob of it down in the tip of my gum. Brother, in 30 seconds, the whole car was spinning. I was dizzy as hell, puking and stuff. Puke. And I had to lay on the hood because it was going round and round. And he started laughing his ass off. He goes, "I bet you won't put no more of that powder in my gimmick."
Oh my God. Gary Arnold, questions for Cowboy Johnny Mantel or Manny Fernandez?
Well, not much of a question for Manny. I actually work with two guys that you helped mentor, Travis Hooker and Sam Bass.
Oh my God, those are my kids. I just got right before I got out here. I was Travis texted me. He's got a new job. Yeah, those are my kids. I love those kids to death.
Yeah, I just seen Travis Monday, matter of fact.
Did you? Ain't he a great guy? He's a fantastic kid.
Yeah.
I worked in the ring with him probably about 6 times.
Did you really?
Yeah, he was at the same training school I was, Southside Pro Wrestling.
Right. That's after they finished with me. I had Bobby, and he goes there to get. I always tell my guys, ring time is good time. Anytime you go somewhere, it's a quality guy. Go in there and get in the ring with him, because ring time is good time. Anything you learn. That's what I was taught.
Absolutely. Now Johnny and Manny, back in the day, there weren't wrestling schools like there are now. It seems like every corner has a wrestling school. You guys learned by doing. Your training was on the job training. I want you guys to give, young workers kind of a feel, and get into it if you want to. Give them a kind of a feel for what you guys went through, and how easy they have it now. Tell them, let's cut through the bullshit and just tell everybody, what you guys had to go through to learn your craft.
Well, first of all, we were very fortunate back in the day when me and Johnny started that there were some veteran old-timers that had been in the business that could carry you, teach you in the ring, show you what's right and wrong, make you pay your dues, and make you earn them too. These guys carried you. Like I said before, when I went to Florida, I got carried by the greatest wrestlers in imaginable. Some are in the Hall of Fame, like Don Morocco probably is there or not, I don't know, but he's a great one. King Curtis was. I had Sonny King. I had all the top, Dory, Terry, Harley, Bugsy McGraw. I mean, I could go on. Florida, I was fed so many great veterans that even if it was so green, if you couldn't learn from these guys, then you were in trouble. Then you didn't belong in the business at all.
Yeah.
Because everyone has a different style. You learn from everyone. You pick their brain. You learn under their learning tree, and that's how you got along. You went on the road. You said, I was on the road when I was a junior playing college football, West Texas State. Murdoch and them would make me go on road trips with them, and I'd sit there and listen to them. And, I was hearing all these stuff they were doing. I'm going, God, that's amazing. Wow. Yeah. I was already learning the business, even though I wasn't in the business, because they trusted me so much that I could ride with them, go to shows with them. It was just amazing what these guys could do. And you don't see that anymore.
No, you really don't. Johnny, who taught you the ropes, brother?
Well, so like for me, because my brother Kenny was wrestling in LA at the time when they smartened me up and started working with me, my travel mates would be with Leo Garibaldi and Peter Maivia and Dory and Terry Funk or Roddy Piper and my brother Kenny and those kind of guys, that would be the kind of guys that I would get to travel with. Like Manny said, you learn so much from them telling you stories and telling you about the business, and then they get you to a building early and go to the ring and work out with you and teach you the right way, and they wouldn't let you get in the ring. Leo put me under a referee shirt. I refereed probably a couple hundred matches, 200, 300, 400 matches before I ever had my first match, and
Yeah.
that's what the training was about. I mean, they made sure you were ready to get in the ring and perform. Or again, everything that I tell people this all the time, and I don't mean it to harp on it, and I don't mean it to just say it over and over and over again, but in those days, if you could not be believable, you wouldn't have a job tomorrow.
Yeah, you know what, Johnny? We were talking about that with the Raging Bull. You know, the believability factor. You know, you during your answer there, you mentioned something that I picked up on. You know, learning from the guys in the car, those car rides. Those car rides are non-existent now. Both of you guys, I want you to chime in. You too, Manny. How important were those car rides to your education, to your career?
Oh, God. They were so important. Like Johnny said earlier, I refereed too. And Barry Windham, after I started wrestling, Barry Windham took over for wrestling in Amarillo for me. But I started refereeing, and I started listening to the boys because I get in there to break them up, and they were talking. You learn from that. You listen to them in the ring, what they're doing, what they're saying. And the same thing with the car rides. I mean, it's unbelievable the knowledge you get from guys drinking beer. They took the fun out of wrestling when they started all this flying. Because you go in a car ride with 4 people drinking beer, having fun, talking angles, talking stories and everything. It's unbelievable. That's unimaginable. It's priceless. It is really priceless. Of the things we did back in the day in a car, going up and down the road, it's priceless. It's something that should be in a damn museum, because that's what it's worth. It's worth knowing that knowledge is that valuable, and that was valuable to me.
How about it, Johnny?
Well, that's exactly what's in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, Wichita Falls, Texas. Is that kind of stuff. You know, I refereed a Dory Funk match, like Manny said, you could lean in and hear them call the spots and pay attention to why they did that spot and how come. And then later on, you rode an hour and a half or 2 hours in the car with Dory, and he explained to you why he did this there and why he did this there and why he did that, because he was relaxed and he'd had a beer or two and he was feeling better, and the match was over. And that's part of this education. And I'll tell you, I think that's what's really hurting the business today is these kids nowadays. There's not the road trip with veterans anymore. They're road trips with young kids, and they're talking about all their young stuff, but they're not traveling much with a veteran that's giving them that education. I made thousands and thousands and thousands of miles with Skandor Akbar and Grizzly Smith.
Oh, my God.
That's awesome, man. All the mileage on the road is unbelievable. Storytelling, just listening to guys talk about wrestling.
Probably flew with Bill Watts 10, 12, 15 times from New Orleans to Shreveport or New Orleans to Tulsa. And the entire time he's talking about angles and how to get an angle started and how to pump it to the next level and get the next and do the next. And so the business is losing a lot today because we're not having that kind of the rest of it. It's that old, the old saying, well, here's the rest of the story. Well, the rest of the story of our business isn't being told in long 4 and 5 and 6 hour car rides. They're not being told anymore. That's where a lot of the business is being lost.
You know, you mentioned something there that prompted a question. You know, it bothers me when I go to a local promotion and I see 2 guys in the back spending 30 to 45 minutes going over spots for an 8-minute match. They're going over a match longer than the match itself. I have a problem with this. Tell everybody what it was like back in the day when you called it in the ring, when you called it on the fly.
Yeah, you get the referee come over, give you a finish, and that's it. and you go out there and
Exactly.
tell a story. You
That's-
tell your story. There was times, Dickie Slater was a booker at Southwest Championship Wrestling, and I was a Southwest champion. And he'd come out and he'd say, "I call in the ring." I didn't even know what he's going to do. So we went out there in the ring, and I followed him because Dickie Slater was one hell of a worker. One hell of a worker. Not only one hell of a worker, one hell of a tough guy. But he called everything out there, finished everything, and it always got over. Never said a word.
Yeah.
Never said a word until we got in the ring. And you get used to that. You get used to that because that's the way it should be done.
We got a guy here tonight that is an independent worker. One of my co-hosts, Gary Arnold. Now, Gary, I got a question for you. Going to put you on the spot here, and you know me, I hardly ever do that. When you're in the back and you're going over spots with a guy, is it really necessary to go spot for spot? And what happens when you say to a guy, let's just call it?
Well, I guess it all depends on the person that you're working, how long they've been in the business and whatnot. To go from spot to spot, definitely not needed. Maybe just the major spots that you want to, for your shine or something like that. Yes, just so you know what's going to happen at that point. But not necessarily.
Define shine. Wait a minute. You said your shine. What shine? You shine in shoes or what?
Exactly. Thank you, Manny. Exactly.
It's called the comeback. It's not a shine like shining shoes. It's called a comeback for your comeback. And you say you wrestled my boys, Bobby and Travis. They were taught that, and they were taught to call it in the ring. They don't do all that other stuff, especially Bobby.
Yeah,
He's
Bobby always has called it in the ring every time I worked with him.
Yeah. And that shine stuff just drives me nuts. The guy told me that one time, one of the young guys, I went to a promotion, independent promotion. The guy goes, "Well, how about my shine?" I said, "What the fuck? You can shine my boots?"
Yeah, right.
Manny,
I got to tell you, Manny and Johnny, here's the one thing, fellas, that drives me absolutely fucking nuts is when a guy says, "I just want to get my shit in."
Right.
That makes me crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I know Johnny don't wrestle anymore, or he does. I haven't seen him, but I still do, and I always get that. I get the shit in. That's when you hook them, and you show them what pro wrestling is all about. You just hook them and tie them up in a little knot, and then tell them, "Hey, dude, you're gonna get your shit in, all right."
Johnny, what are your thoughts on that? And when a guy says, "Look, I'll put you over. Just let me get my shit in." What does that do to you?
Well, it goes back to how I was trained and taught in the business, and that is, if I'm the heel out in the ring and I'm giving a guy a chance to make the comeback, I'm going to let him make his comeback. But when it's time for me to stop him, I'm stopping his ass.
Yeah.
If that's not his shine, if he doesn't have his shine in with me selling and doing the right thing, then like Manny said, you just tie him up and you just take it home and you just take it home. I mean, there's no reason to go on. In my day, there was lots of times you never saw your opponent till you were in the ring. Maybe the referee brought you the finish, or maybe the referee didn't bring you the finish. And it was just all done in the ring by the feel of the crowd. And that feel of that crowd, again, goes back to that education that we keep talking about of the business. And
Exactly.
that's part of the business that's being lost today because they really don't. They think they know how to work a crowd today, but they really don't know how to work a crowd because an old veteran could get 3 times more out of a crowd than a young guy could from the way they're doing it today.
Yeah.
This to happen, and that's
They
going to happen.
truly.
This just doesn't always happen that way. Some nights the crowd don't want to believe the shit you're doing. So you got to take
Yeah.
Exactly.
Go
ahead, man.
Those guys do a lot of cheerleading. Hey, look at me. In the old days, you got over by your work. How you work in the ring got you over. not that cheerleading, clapping hands, jumping on the second rope, going, "Oh, you like this?" You know, it's funny how they do that. I'll tell you what. I was in a show with Dominic DeNucci, the old school Dominic DeNucci.
Oh
We're
God,
sitting
yeah.
there, and the guy comes out of the back, and he's all yelling and screaming and everything like that. Dominic DeNucci looks at me. "You do nothing. You done nothing. Get in the ring and show your stuff. What are you yelling for?" I started laughing. I go, "They all do that, Dominic." You know? And I went to the ring. I was taught the ring is where I do my thing. That is my stage to get in there and prove to the people how good I am or how bad I am, whatever. That's your stage. That's where you get over or that's where you fail. And that's the way I was taught, and that's what I believe. You know.
Go ahead, Johnny.
Sorry, Johnny.
The guys back in the day, if you could work, and I'm telling you, when I started my first summer in the business working for Bill and Leroy, I worked with the Assassins every night. I worked with a guy by the name of Salento Rodriguez, or I worked with Ted Heath, or I worked with Moose Morowski, or I worked with, and if you didn't perform in the ring, those guys, as Manny said, they'd tie you up and hook you up. So it was important every night to perform the best you could in the ring because you didn't want that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's funny,
Absolutely.
back when I was in Florida, and was still young.
Champion on the mat. I know how to get after it on the mat as well. But
Yeah.
there was times, you know, during the global days for Manny, there was times I had to hook JBL up, or I had to hook Bobby Duncan up for a minute and say, "Hey, calm down, buddy. Whoa,
Yeah.
a minute."
I know. That's why I always respect Johnny Mantel. That's what I put him in there with those young stiff guys, and they were really stiff. They really, really stiff. And Johnny took care of them for me. But you know, I'll tell you this much. I remember back when I was young and I had the Florida title, and I had to wrestle all these great heels, veterans that I respected. One thing I was told: shut up and listen, and that's what I did.
Exactly.
I didn't say a word. I just shut up and listen. And then when they told me to come back, they told me, "You better have a hell." John told us, the Golden Greek told me one time, "When I tell you to come back, you better come back. I don't give a damn. If you're shitting in your hair, you better have some fire, boy."
Exactly.
You know, I come back
That's
and
old school, brother.
yeah.
That's
And then
old
when it was time for them to stop me and to come back, I get I get a stiff when I go, "Oops, I guess it's time." I used to love
Messier,
those days.
you got a question?
Well, I remember Manny Fernandez wrestled Wahoo McDaniel, I believe, in an Indian strap match at Super Clash 3, which was the AWA World Class Championship Wrestling and several other wrestling groups. To me, that was kind of the last stand of the old territory days, because that was when those promoters, Vern Gagne and the Jarretts and the Von Erichs, they tried to come together as a united front for one last stand, and the main event was stopped because of blood. But what a lot of people forget is kind of the precursor to that match being stopped, the Lawler-Von Erich match, Kerry Von Erich, was because the bloodiness of the Wahoo McDaniel-Manny Fernandez match. And in the commentary on that show, they made a point to illustrate that because the blood was flowing so deep between Manny and Wahoo, that the referee felt that they should stop the Lawler-Von Erich match, although they didn't get as bloody as Wahoo and Manny. I guess my question is, Manny, if you can take us back to that evening, were you and Wahoo kind of instructed or encouraged to let the rivers flow mightily that night in order to set the pace for what was to come later on that evening?
No, if you kept up with the feud with me and Wahoo for years, we beat the living crap out of each other. We
I know
literally
that.
beat the crap out of each other. We busted each other open a couple times the hard way. You know,
Yep.
Naturally, you know, we have big scars and scars that open up like a boxer's eye. You know,
Right.
and of course we wrapped that damn leather around our fists and we hit each other pretty damn hard. But what nobody knows behind the scenes is this: they weren't supposed to stop that Lawler Von Erich match because of blood. They really want to put each other over. That's why everything fell apart.
Oh, okay.
One of us was supposed to go over, right? And now when they stopped me and Wahoo had a bloody match, And then we come back and realize the Horizon Center was sold out. And now the territory is going down because of that. The people booed the hell out of that match. They were so pissed off. I knew they wouldn't come back. And when I had Wayne Bloom and Gary Enos, Ray Stevens, me and Wahoo, and I was so damn mad when I found out what they did. And I was back there covered in blood. That when I saw them come back in, I ran after. I was going to kick the living shit out of them. I was so mad because I knew they just killed the town. They just killed the damn town after what me and Wahoo did. It took Wahoo, Ray Stevens, Wayne Bloom, and Mike Enos to tackle me and sit on me until they got out of the dressing room. I was going to destroy them because I knew what they did just killed our town. It was unbelievable. We were out there having a bloodbath, and they had a trickle of blood, one little trickle of blood, and it was unreal.
You guys let it all hang out in that match.
Johnny, how did?
So two things real quick, and I have to apologize. But two things real quick. One is Manny's exactly right. First off, him and Wahoo, if you ever watched their matches, they were fights.
Yeah.
They were no works. They were no pussyfooting around. They were fights out in the ring, and the blood that they gave represented the fight that they had. It was up to Kerry and Jerry Lawler to make sure that they covered their ass and did the right thing in their match. They couldn't get the job done. So, and that's why I'm sorry when Manny said that, I started laughing, and I couldn't stop laughing is because, again, it goes back to what we said all night long about the education and about the learning of the business. And as you guys know, this is real heavy time about induction time, and I'm getting a phone call from overseas right now. I'm trying to work out all the airplane for the Bushwhackers, for Butch Miller, for Butch out of New Zealand. I'm trying to work on that airfare and all that, getting him over here. So I'm going to have to cut out of here. But, Manny, I love you, and you're telling them exactly the way it should be told, my brother. And I hope to see you today. And Dominic DiNucci will be in Wichita Falls May 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. We hope to see everybody there.
Fantastic.
I'll be there in May, Johnny. You take care. Love you, brother.
I love you, brother. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks so much, Johnny. I'll touch base with you in a couple days.
Thank you, buddy.
Take care, bro. Bye-bye. How about that, Manny?
That was a great guy. I've been trying to go down in the Hall of Fame, but I'll tell you the honest truth, I'm not into all that. I'm in the high school Hall of Fame, college Hall of Fame, junior college. You know, that I earned that. And that's what I'm proud of. I've always known about wrestling. I respect the hell out of it. Till this day, if you say something stupid about it, I'll punch you in the mouth. You know, that's so much of wrestling. It's like I told a guy one time, wrestling don't owe you shit. What do you think wrestling owes you? It don't owe you nothing. We owe wrestling. It made us a living. It gave us an opportunity to be somebody. It doesn't. You don't deserve what wrestling is if you think it owes you something. So.
You know, Manny, I want to ask you a question along those lines. I read an article recently about the 5 top major sports. It's called Ego in Check. That was the title of the article. Ego in Check. Of baseball, football, basketball, and hockey, pro wrestling ranked number 1 among the largest egos in sport.
Oh my God!
I want to. You're laughing because I want to know why.
I don't know, because they should be. NFL should be number 1 with all the stupid stuff they do. And I played in the old NFL, and I remember when you had to wear black cleats, not white cleats. I remember all that stuff. You had to truck these, and you know, NFL now is so wide open. Everybody does some ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You know, the only thing I don't respect about wrestling is that guys come out and cheerlead instead of getting over in the ring.
Amazing.
What you're taught by wrestling. You know, it's wrestling.
Yeah.
Like I told the kid, there's wrestling on the marquee, dude. It doesn't say cheerleading. It doesn't say trapeze act. It says wrestling. And it'll always say that. And they just look at me weird because that's what it'll always say. It doesn't say high flying shit. It says wrestling.
Wrestling, exactly. The marquee says wrestling. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Manny, I want to ask you to do me a favor, Manny. Just play along with me a minute, okay? Just humor me a minute. Gary,
Okay, go ahead.
I got a question for you, Gary.
Yeah.
What's the difference between going over and getting over?
Going over is what you get for just for going over the match. Getting over is you selling enough to the crowd for the crowd to believe in what you're selling. You know, for them to be able to get behind you, and like for me as being a baby face that I am, I went from not being over to being way over because how I attend to the fans. I make sure that when I'm out there, it's the best performance that I've done since the last time that I was in the ring, and it works out well for me being with the fans behind me. It makes it a lot more easier to do in-ring work. You necessarily don't have to do as much, like people say, like get your shit in. That's not needed. You don't need to get your shit in to get over at all. That's
Now,
not a
Manny,
necessity.
I
Well-
asked Gary that question specifically because I wanted your answer last. What's the
Simple,
difference
guys.
between getting over and being over?
It's simple. It's how you do it. It doesn't matter what happens during the match. It's how you get to that point and how you do it. It doesn't matter if you go down, up, whatever. It's how you do it. It's just the same simple thing as saying, well, I take all these bumps. That doesn't matter. It's about what bump and what time it matters. It pops everything. Same thing with getting over or not being over. It's how you do it. It's like I said about Don Morocco. I beat him every damn night, but he was over bigger than I was ever over, or anybody else. It doesn't matter. It's how you do it, how you get to that point. That's what a lot of people don't understand right now. It's oh, I got to get over. I got to get my shit in to get over. No, dude, it's how you do it. It's like me. I tell these promoters when they bring me in, hey, man, we want to bring you in, put you with our champion. You know, I wrestle Ethan Wright, a bunch of young guys that should be probably in WWE because they're that good. And I put them over, and you know what? They get over stronger because of the way I do it. And then when I get up, the people are yelling, man, he still got it. He still got it. He still got it. You know, it's not, it's how you do it. It's the same thing as not how many bumps you take. It's when you take the bump.
Exactly. Now, Manny, how do you stay over? Once you're over with the crowd, how do you stay over?
You got to be better than yourself every day. Every day you go out there. Remember, we used to for 364 days a year. We only got Christmas off. Christmas Eve off. It's the only time we had off. So you got to be better every night. You got to bring your A game every single night. You got to prove to yourself that I could be. And you know what the greatest thing about our cards were? We had great wrestlers on the card. Guys that go out there and have a great match. That pushed you to be better. You had to be better than that match. It was easy to follow a great match. Harder to follow a horrible match. And there's a lot of horrible matches in the day. So it made it easy for us, you know. And we had
and I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that a lot of people don't know is your placement on the card will determine in a lot of cases whether you're over and how long you stay over, or if you're ever going to be over.
Correct.
And a lot of people don't grasp that. They don't understand it. They don't know how it figures in. And I'm glad that you explained it that way, because it was perfect, brother. It was perfect.
Well, let me tell you this, too. The way that my underneath card, I had one of the greatest underneath cards every time I went out. You know, the Denny Browns, the Hector Guerreros, the Mike Davises, you know, and the Boogies and the Peswatis and Barbarians. Every time I went out there, that they set the table for me. So by the time I got to the main event, I could probably pick my nose and get over. That's how good the underneath was.
Yeah.
They set the table for me, and I went out there and busted my ass because they busted their ass. And you don't see that no more. It's all about their ego. I'm going to get myself over. I don't give a shit. They set the table without being egotistic and without being selfish. They got their match over, and it made me get my match over that much more.
Exactly. Oh, by the way, Manny, I got to tell you, yesterday, in fact, I spoke to Magnum on the phone.
He's doing good.
Oh man, I love Magnum. I'm going to bring him on May the 5th. He's coming on May 5th with me.
Right.
Now, I'm hoping he doesn't listen to this show tonight, because what I would love for you to do, if you'll do this for me, because I'm your new best friend right now, what I would love for you to do is, can you do a run-in call for Mag?
Yeah, sure thing. Anything
Beautiful.
for Maggie. Yeah, we spent time together in Southwest Championship Wrestling after Buzz Sawyer ripped him off for all that money. He come in and I worked with him and Al
Ooh.
Perez and a couple other guys.
I was going to ask you about that off the air, but so don't say nothing.
Okay, well,
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. We won't talk about that now. Mike Messier, you're chomping at the bit. Go ahead, brother.
Well, just what Manny said about the undercard guys. If you take a look at a show like Starrcade 1984, Thanksgiving night 1984 in the Greensboro Coliseum, Manny Fernandez was 5th on the show in a brass knuckles championship match against Black Bart with J.J. Dillon at ringside for Bart. But you had guys like Brian Adidas, Jesse Barr, Mike Graham, Mike Davis, Denny Brown. For people that have the WWE Network or there's other ways to see Starrcade 84, the undercard really stole the show because people remember that the Dusty Flair match with the referee stoppage by boxer Joe Frazier was very disappointing. But to me, I watched Starrcade 84 about a year ago, and it's actually a great show because the undercard stole the show. And Manny had a great match. Tully Blanchard and Steamboat had a great match. But it's what Manny said. I just want to say that he's absolutely right. You had some great guys in those 84, 85, 86 Jim Crockett era.
You had undercards, though, Mike, that equaled main events today.
Exactly.
Some of those undercards back in the day were better than main events today. WrestleMania level main events.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Manny.
Go ahead, Manny.
Yeah, he's telling you the truth. Mike's telling you the truth. I enjoyed being on the undercard. I really did. I used to tell Crockett, he'd get mad at me. I said, I don't care if you put me on first. I get to the bar first.
That's great. And I wanted to say when Johnny was on the air before, but the audio was a little low on my end with Johnny. He wrestled the first two opening matches at the 84 and 85 Parade of Champions for David Von Erich. He wrestled Kelly Kiniski, the first one in 84, 15-minute draw. And then he wrestled, I believe, Sweet Brown Sugar or Skip Young in 85. 15-minute draws both times for Johnny Mantel, so I wanted to give him a shout-out for that. I just wanted to make one last little thought, if I could, and then that I'll be done. Listening to Manny Fernandez tonight and the integrity that he has in keeping the spirit of professional wrestling, the mystique, as we've talked about Angelo in previous episodes, and the fact that Manny would fight in a bar to defend the integrity of professional wrestling, the way that it should be presented and perceived by the fans. Compare that to Monday Night Raw about a year ago. This big bad Braun Strowman, 6'8", 6'10" of him. He's choking this guy from Saturday Night Live, Mr. Scarlett Johansson, against the wall. And then he lets go of the guy, and the guy totally no-sells the choke against the wall. And this is not a professional wrestler. This is a comedian from Saturday Night Live. So when I think about that happened a year ago, that I guess I'm the one that remembers that, and other fans just so quick to forgive. That happened on Monday Night Raw, and broadcast everywhere. When the WWE replays that, they chop around it, they edit it. But to me, the guy like Manny Fernandez has so much more integrity than the current state of the WWE, and it does get me angry, to be honest with you. Not at Manny, obviously, but against the state of the WWE and the state of the business and the lack of respect these guys have for their own industry. Yeah.
And Manny, and I understand where Mike is coming from. We affectionately refer to Mike as the angry wrestling fan. He does a series of videos on YouTube called The Angry Wrestling Fan. Yeah, you got to check them out sometimes. But, here's how I want to bring this up. A couple of weeks ago, my co-host, Jeff the Ref Robinson, passed away. And we do a segment every week now called Remember the Ref. Well, the Ref was good friends with a guy that you knew really, really well, Ivan Koloff.
Oh, I love Ivan.
And so in closing this show tonight, I would love you to do our segment of Remember the Ref by telling us an Ivan Koloff story. Would you do that for me?
Ivan Koloff I used to call him the hardest worker in pro wrestling. That guy was nonstop, man. I mean, he would go and wrestle so hard. I enjoyed matches against Ivan, especially, that one time I told him we had that cage match, me and Dusty against Ivan and Nikita. And I said, brother, do you really want to take this knee off an 18-foot cage? And he looked up at me, I trust you. With that Russian, I trust you. I said, oh my God, I was scared because I've never done it off an 18-foot cage. He never even moved a muscle. And I come off that cage. I didn't just jump. I jumped higher. I jumped up, then down. And he never moved a muscle, man. And I landed. Yeah. And then I was like, dude, are you okay? He goes, didn't feel nothing.
I love it. I love it.
I gave him all the credit in the world for laying there. I don't think I could have done it, to tell you the truth. I don't think I could lay there and let somebody drop a knee off 20 feet up in the air on my face. But he did.
That's amazing.
He was Ivan Koloff was a man's man. Man's man.
Yeah.
What else in the business?
And I heard, Manny, that he was so loose in the ring that you barely felt anything.
I used to tell him, harder. I can't be harder.
Unbelievable.
I love being stiff. And but the loosest guy I ever felt in the ring was Superstar Billy Graham. Oh my God, he was so damn loose. I didn't even know he was on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's actually a friend of mine, just so you know, Manny.
Yeah.
Superstar, I know Superstar a long time, brother. And he's a sweetheart of a guy. I love Superstar.
Oh, by the way there, Angelo, I'm still open April 11th.
Oh, all right. Well, you know what's funny you mentioned that because we don't know now with this coronavirus thing. We don't know what we're being told. They may cancel that event.
Yeah. I
wanted to talk to you about that because Terry Funk's going to be there, and I know you and the Funker go back a long time.
Yeah, since 1977. But Terry, I was supposed to be with Terry this past weekend up in New York, the big event, and Terry canceled because of his health. So I don't think Terry's going to be going anywhere, especially with this virus out there,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mentioned that because everybody's canceling everything. I was supposed to this weekend, big time, cancel Saturdays. We're supposed to be Saturday in Round Top, Ohio. I got to be in West Virginia, and then Round Top, they canceled. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna give you a call tomorrow. And go over a couple things and let you know what I know so far.
Okay.
What I'm going to do now is say thank you so much. My new best friend, Manny Fernandez, the Raging Bull. We're going to say goodbye to you and good night, but you are definitely coming back for the Magnum show because I want to surprise Terry with you for sure.
Thank you.
And so when are you planning on moving back to Texas, brother?
Probably at the end of May.
All right. Terrific.
Because Terry's not doing a good health-wise, so I don't want to be that far away anymore.
Yeah. I don't blame you, my friend. Manny, thank you so much, man. I appreciate everything. You are the best. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for having me on here. And I appreciated one of you, Gary and Mike Messier. Sorry I confused you for a massive hockey player.
No, that's okay. I mean, I taught him everything he knew. Just remember, Messier won a cup without Gretzky, but Gretzky never won a cup without Messier. That's right.
Yeah, that's true.
Thanks for all the great memories, Raging Bull. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Manny. Have a good night, brother.
Yeah,
bye-bye.
Bye.
Great guy. Manny Fernandez, the Raging Bull. How about that, Gary?
That was good.
Huh? That's something that'll pop the boys.
For sure.
Not one, but two legends, huh? Johnny Mantel and Manny Fernandez. Mikey. Talk to me about your memories of Starrcade being there that night.
Well, the show that I was at was Crockett Cup '87, and I have the
Crockett
program.
Cup, okay.
Check it out. I have the program. That
He
is from
still has the program.
That's from 1987. That's older than most of the viewers, and that is the scrawl, the handwritten scrawl. That's the white piece of paper that they would insert into the program.
Yes.
With my childish handwriting of writing and I have right there, Rude and Bull defeated the Thunderfoots, and they would go on to lose to Dusty and Nikita Koloff. And in the program, this wonderful program of the tournament, which I purchased at the Baltimore Arena for $4.
Wow.
And the program is full color.
They charge you $20 now for the program.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be as classy as this. Look at that. You can see.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
You can see them in their glory. Rude, Bull,
Rick
Paul
Rude and
Jones.
Manny Fernandez. Sure.
And this was coming about 2.5 or 3 weeks after WrestleMania 3. And I'm telling you, if I could make a time machine, I would keep the exact same path that I would have gone to the Crockett Cup '87 in Baltimore both nights, rather than WrestleMania 3, because I was an NWA fan. The first shows that I saw were WWF, but once I started watching guys like Raging Bull Manny Fernandez, Superstar Billy Graham was in the NWA at that time, Boogie Woogie Man, Dusty, of course, Ivan Koloff, Nature Boy, Ric Flair, blah, blah, blah. That's when my eyes opened that there was more to professional wrestling than, the WWF, basically. And
now, Gary, what was your first introduction to wrestling? Did you get the Vince McMahon product where you are?
No, I mean, it was only time WWF was here was on Sundays. I think it was.
Right.
But mainly everything was NWA.
So you had Jim Crockett, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so your introduction was NWA. Mine was WWF back in the day. But I got to tell you, and then Jeff the Ref and I used to talk about this, even though I grew up watching the WWF product, I actually preferred the NWA because of what Johnny and Manny were talking about. It was more believable.
Reality.
It seemed, real and authentic. And now I'm wondering if Mid-Atlantic and Vanguard, those Mid-Atlantic territories now are still carrying on in that tradition. You would know better than I would.
I believe they are. There's definitely not the entertainment value like WWF puts out or makes people bigger than life itself instead of just, guys wrestling.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. Mikey, your thought? Because you got that look on. I know you by now. You got that look.
I was wondering if the Vanguard Wrestling from Virginia is ever going to dip into, or has dipped into, the Carolinas, North Carolina or South Carolina. Just curious if you guys ever come down to those areas.
How about it, Gary?
They've been actually playing around with a few ideas to actually do travel. They were thinking one way of making it like a season of wrestling, to where we travel just for a certain amount of time and then take some time off.
That's not a bad idea, actually, Gary. Now,
it's not really. I'd actually really enjoy that because it, allow people to see our product that we do here locally. But I mean, and just the same as I'm booked almost every single weekend. Actually, I had a booking this weekend. Next weekend coming up was canceled from the virus.
Yeah.
VCW might be canceled now. Saturday because of the virus. We're still waiting to hear what they're going to decide to do.
Yeah, it's kind of putting everything on hold right now. Because you got a big weekend coming up. You got Sergeant Slaughter supposed to be coming in.
Yep.
So I mean, they cancel that weekend, you're going to take a big hit, big time. Mm-hmm. Not just financially, but you're you're going to lose fans that may not come back if Sarge is not there.
I mean, that could happen. We could still have the show and he not come just due to the airports and stuff like that from him flying.
Yeah, true.
There's a lot of stuff that could
too.
be involved in that as well. From it's just us not canceling the show.
Yeah. Well, so tell us what's going on. Let's go on the premise that everything is still on. So where are you going to be? And what's coming up for Livid the Clown in the next couple of weeks?
Well, let's see. This Saturday, BCW at Hampton High School. We are going to do a charity for the school itself with all ticket sales. And then this Sunday, I'll be in Elizabeth City, North Carolina for Next Evolution Wrestling. And I was supposed to be going to West Virginia next Friday, but that's canceled now.
Yeah.
And then the weekend after that, me and my tag partner, we're going to be in Petersburg, Virginia for Elite Wrestling.
And what are the dates on those, Gary?
The dates are, well, let me pull it up.
So yeah, we got a couple things coming up. So I want to make sure that if everything is still on, that people know where to go to see you and how to get a hold of you and all that. So let's hope that none of these events are canceled. Let's hope they remain in place and on target for everyone's sake.
Sorry, my internet's going slow tonight.
That's quite all right. Well, let's just people can find you through Vanguard, through New Evolution Wrestling. They can go onto those websites to find out where you're going to be.
Yeah, they can.
Okay. Now, how do people get a hold of you? What's your social media?
You can just go to @LiveTheClown on Instagram. Live the Clown on Facebook. Simply Safeish on Facebook.
Okay.
@ClownLivid on Twitter.
Okay. Terrific. All right, Gary. Well, we're going to say goodnight to you. And I will see you next week. Same time, same channel.
All right. Appreciate it. Good to meet you, Mike.
Good to meet you, Gary.
Take care, brother. I'll talk to you in a couple of days.
Okay. Have a good night.
You got it. You bet. Bye-bye. Just you and me, Messier.
I guess so. Me, you, and Morocco. And
yeah.
You know,
I love that action figure, by the way. You got all kinds of stuff, don't you?
Well, you know, the funny thing is, Angelo, when I moved from Rhode Island to Florida, I had a big a good friend of mine, Morrow, became my eBay advocate, and he did manage to sell a lot of the Mike Messier personal wrestling belongings to the community at large. And funny thing is, we had a couple of Rick and Scott Steiner Galoob action figures that apparently a woman was related to the Steiner brothers, and she bought them for her kids because they were the nephew and niece of the actual Steiners. That's the story, anyway.
Oh,
who knows
that's
if it's
funny.
True. Yeah, but you know,
that's the story you got, right?
It's a good story. If
it makes a great story, I love it.
But I mean, I've still got the stuff that was really hardcore to me. If you look at this T-shirt, this is Taz and Sabu from Barely Legal.
Yeah, sure.
97. I'm actually going to start my own merchandise Amazon store, and I'm going to have some of my original wrestling photography available for T-shirts for everybody. Because you know, in this economy, you really have to make money any way you can, and by sharing some of my artwork, whether it's wrestling or other things, I'll be keeping myself alive. You know what I mean?
And we want to. That's a great segue, and I want everybody to take a look at this shirt here.
Nice.
This is the Wrestling with the Future T-shirt.
I love it.
Available on our Facebook webpage at Wrestling with the Future, and you can find us also on Twitter at Wrestling Future. We do not yet have an Instagram, but I'm working on one. We were actually working on it when the ref passed away, rest his soul. And but this show misses him every day.
Well, I wanted
But
to kind of, if I could, Angelo, just say that I give you a lot of credit. I know it's been especially tough for yourself, dealing with Jeff's passing. To me, as I told you on the phone last night, on a personal phone call, it still hasn't sunk in. We're moving forward, but Jeff will always be a part of this show, and it's just a sad thing. And like I said, it still
yeah,
hasn't caught up to me. But I know that you have really come forward and brought together a team of guys because, like as you said, not one person can take Jeff the Ref's spot. So we
yeah,
have to have a kind of a rotating door of different people who can all contribute in different ways to the puzzle that is this
yeah.
masterpiece type of thing.
Yeah, and that's why I have Gary here, and I have you. Of course, I've got Mike Kelleher, and from time to time we're going to have some special guests come in and fill in. They may be famous, they may be people you don't know, they may be people that are on the independent circuit, but I certainly have a who's who lined up of people to come in. Some of them will surprise you. Some of them are very, very well known
I
among the
think
wrestling community.
I think that's great. I mean, I think like I said, it's you'll never fill those shoes. So
Yeah,
making it a different type of thing is the way to go. And kudos to yourself for keeping this thing rolling, and with all the listeners who listen and support the show and get those T-shirts because it's a sharp looking shirt. I mean, that's a good looking shirt.
thank you. I
Yeah.
designed it myself.
Well, you did a good
Actually,
job.
I got it, and I got to share credit. My wife was actually responsible for quite a bit of it, so I get a shout out to the missus over there, Anita.
Well, Anita did a great job, as did
She's
yourself.
laughing at me.
And Jeff the Ref's sister has been very complimentary towards all the memories. Just so the fans that are listening, if anyone has chimed in on social media, with
Yes, absolutely.
she's been very supportive and very appreciative of everyone saying the nice things.
Yeah, and she's really supportive of this show, and found out things about her brother that she didn't know, like how many friends he actually had, which are, numerous. It's into the hundreds and hundreds of people knew and loved Jeff the Ref, and I'm still getting, emails and texts from people that are extending their condolences to me. Why, I don't know, but thank you, and we will accept them graciously. But Jeff will always be a part of this show. There's no question about that, and that's always going to stay.
And
So
if I could,
where can
go ahead.
go ahead, Mickey? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, just one thing, and I think I said this to you in a different form or on that video tribute I did for Jeff, but I do think it's worth saying again that the night that Jeff passed, Jeff and I literally 2 or 3 days earlier had this extensive debate about WWE and all these things, and Jeff, as we know, was always defending wrestling and WWE against any type of criticism. And the night that Jeff passed, I was at an NXT show. So there I was supporting, the WWE NXT version in Jacksonville, Florida. And I kind of think that Jeff kind of had a hand in that in some spiritual context because he would have appreciated that he got one over on me at the very end. I was at the NXT show. But as far as what's going on with me, Angelo, if that's where you were about to ask.
Yeah, where can people get a hold of Mike Messier?
The first thing I would guide them to is MikeMessier.com. If you go to MikeMessier.com, if you want to help me out, right at the splash page, you can click on my IMDb page. Now, what IMDb is, Internet Movie Database. For a guy like myself who was not born into the film industry, was born with no connections, and somehow I've managed to work with Meryl Streep, Wesley Snipes, Sybil Shepherd on my own accord, not being born into the Hollywood elite. But if you click on my IMDb page, that helps my ranking go up a little bit. You can also go to Mike Messier on YouTube. It's Mike Messier. You can see the wrestling rants. You can see my movie with Ox Baker, one of the boys. You can see Wrestling Son, Memories of My Parents' Divorce with the late, great John Cronus and Killer Kowalski. You can see Rejected by Reality with the late Balls Mahoney. And if you want further Mike Messier fun, if you're a filmmaker yourself, or even have a cat video or a dog video, or want to make a movie, you can enter my film festival, Avalonia Film Festival. That's Avalonia. It's named after a continent of land that drift into the ocean from New England. Avalonia Film Festival. If you're a playwright, you can enter my theater festival, Avalonia 7 Theater Festival. And so as far as social media, it's Mikey Messier on Facebook. I still have room for a couple of thousand more friends. Twitter, it's Angry Wrestling Fan Mikey Messier. I also have my more subdued filmmakers thing, Avalonia Festival. You can find me on Twitter in both ways, because I have my wrestling guy, and then I have my my artistic guy, because I get too many personalities in this one body, Angelo. You and I have been.
That's why you're perfect for the wrestling business.
That's why I'm still here. And then you and I have been discussing that we won't give the title away right now, but I've been working very hard on revisiting a pro wrestling script that I originally started writing 9 years ago. There might be a life lesson in this for people. That I started writing this script 9 years ago. I wasn't happy with where it laid off, and since moving here to Florida, about 6 or 8 weeks ago, I picked up that script, and right now it's at 109 pages. It's spell checked. It's you've read it, you've enjoyed it. We'll be talking about that privately. But if anyone's interested in helping Angelo and myself get this pro wrestling script, a feature film length script with the possibility of sequels, please contact Angelo or myself, and we'll discuss it.
And they can reach me at wrestlingwiththefuture@gmail.com. They can also find me on Facebook at Angelo DeCipio, or like our page on Facebook, facebook.com/wrestlingwiththefuture. Find me on Twitter at WrestlingFuture. You can also, again, email us at wrestlingwiththefuture@yahoo.com. So we've got Yahoo and Gmail. So there's no excuse not to reach us somehow. If you have guest ideas, show ideas, if you want to come on to promote a promotion or yourself, let us know, and we'll make ourselves available to you and entertain the prospect of bringing you on the show. On behalf of Manny Fernandez, Cowboy Johnny Mantel, Gary Livid the Clown Arnold, and Mike the Movie Maker Messier, I'm Psychic Medium Angelo. Thanks for joining us. Happy wrestling, everybody. Bye-bye.